Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's the Town of Rocky Mountain House regular council meeting for February 21st, 2023. And I just wanted to mention that a few of us are wearing pink today, those who could, for Anti-Bullying Day for tomorrow. So moving ahead in the agenda to adopt the agenda for February 21st, 2023, regular council meeting. Do we have any changes to today's agenda? Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a motion. Councillor Phillips.
I'll make a motion to adopt our agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. We have no delegations today, so I'll be moving on to 4.1 to adopt the regular council meeting minutes of February 7th of 2023. Do we have any changes or additions to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll be asking for a motion.
Also move the
Councillor Schipholt.
acceptance of the minutes as presented.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So we have no delegation business today, and we'll be moving on to old business, the RFD for council procedural bylaw. And so I'll turn it over to Ms. Quinlan because Mr. Kraus is on holiday today.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. This is just bringing the procedural bylaw back to you for second and third reading. It's been presented several times with several changes, and last meeting you did first reading, so if there's no more discussion or changes, you're ready to go through second and third reading.
I had some conversation. When you look at, it's just for, we are looking at I'm finding it in my papers. The Part B, it still says that we're going to have the meeting on Thursday. I'll pull it up. And I just still don't think that's enough time when you look at the adjustments on the last two pages.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to find,
So if you go to page 40 and 41,
okay.
the Agenda Review Committee it's number 8. The Agenda Review Committee shall meet at 3 o'clock on Thursday immediately, so this is before the Tuesday meeting, to go over the agenda. So we don't actually get our package. This is just for formalizing items that will be on the agenda, not that we won't have a look at any of the agenda items. So I'm just wondering, if we're meeting at 3 o'clock prior to the Tuesday, I sure would like to see our agenda packages come out a little earlier, like perhaps on Thursday. So I'm thinking to have the Agenda Review Committee at 3 o'clock on a Thursday, shouldn't it be 3 o'clock on a Wednesday? So that we can get the package a little bit earlier. Because, for example, this weekend is a fantastic example of the first meeting of every month. There was a long weekend. So we get our packages in the afternoon on Friday, right? And so then we have a 3-day long weekend and Tuesday morning. So some people on council are working, some people, might want to do something on the long weekend. It puts a lot of pressure. And our most important job is to be prepared, have read all our notes, have made comments, to be very prepared for the meeting at hand. And so I just would like to make sure that we have enough space in our processes that, if it's a long weekend, we could have it a little early. And I just don't think that gives administration enough time if we're not reviewing, if we're not setting the agenda till 3 o'clock on the Thursday, then Friday is tight to get everything put together and put on the agenda. So I'd like to see that be maybe Wednesday. And I'm certainly open for discussion on that.
I was just going to ask admin if it's 3 o'clock on Thursday, what kind of time frame does that give you to have the agenda out?
I think it would depend on if there was any changes to the agenda. If there was nothing, I mean, if you had to draft something new to go on the agenda, even 24 hours could potentially be an issue. If it's just moving or deferring an item, it shouldn't cause a real issue.
Yeah, so with that being said, like, I think the concept of us going over the agenda committee is to put things on, you know, and I want to make sure we have enough time that we're able to really do a good job of reviewing it. And I see Councillor Shipple also had a comment.
We discussed this last meeting, and I think we basically agreed that we're going to leave it as was. The package came out early this past Friday, which was very nice, thank you. And I would think we should leave it at that. If there's any last minute items and they can hit the agenda, it'd be nice to move it up, but from a administration perspective, I think that's where the difficulty lies. So I think we can, I guess where I'm at is leaving it as is in here. I do have another question regarding this though, but I think the timeline's workable, and if it comes out Thursday night, great, and if it comes out early Friday morning, so be it. Getting it that much earlier on Friday made a significant difference for me, so.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, there are some people who are, you know, working at the same time, and we did discuss it last time. I just wanted to bring it up again because we maybe have had a little bit more time to think about it, to see what everybody else would think. I'm fine with whatever, I just. Does anybody else? Councillor Boniface?
I agree with, it'd be nice to move it up and give us a little more time, but I also agree with Councillor Shipple that we'll be asking a lot of administration. And is there any reason why we couldn't leave it like this, and then if we find in the future that there is an issue, we could address it again and change the date? That's possible?
Yes, I believe that's how it would work. We just have to do 3 readings of a bylaw again to change it. So then it extends the time frame. So I'm just trying to build in a little bit of emergency time for things now so that we don't have to do 3 readings of a bylaw to change it later, because that would extend it over like a whole month minimum, kind of, right?
So as a compromise, if we moved the meeting time till 1 o'clock on Thursday with more of an incentive to get it out on Thursday, that could work just by bumping down the meeting time a couple of hours possibly.
Yeah, I think that sounds suitable to me, if that's a good compromise for everybody else. Does everybody else feel? I'll go to you, Councillor Hutchinson now.
Just a question for administration. I understood it that as we've put schedules and the agenda review committee is Schedule B, we would just be amending the schedule. We wouldn't have to go through the bylaw again in 3 readings. Is that correct or not?
Yeah,
So
yes.
Mayor, to
Yeah.
Councillor Hutchinson, so it would be an amending bylaw. So we'd still have to go through it, but it would be done all in one day.
Thank you. Councillor Shipple?
I'd like to talk about number 5 on that, and that is the need for there's 2 things. It talks about taking minutes at these meetings, which I don't see the need to take minutes if you're just reviewing an agenda.
Number 5 on which page?
5 on
Like number 10, 5?
56 of 139, so on page 41. So it says the legislative coordinator would come as well to that meeting. Does that happen now when you meet with the CAO?
Yeah, so I can explain that. Currently, the process is that the legislative coordinator and the CAO actually put the agenda and have all the agenda items together, and then we review it together, just so
Okay.
that I am familiar and comfortable with what motions need to be made and sort of like how the meetings run. So I am not certain how an agenda committee would work, like, what the difference would be. Does that make sense to you?
That, okay, that, I can understand that. Then it goes on to say there's minutes taken. Is there minutes taken now when you guys meet to do the agenda?
No.
So someplace in here I read that there would be minutes taken, and I'm not sure where I read it.
So, I don't think that I saw that anywhere, because Counselor Caprero.
Is it because it's a committee that minutes are supposed to be taken?
On page 42. Counselor Shippold, did you have a follow-up for that?
I'm just wondering if Councillor Caprero was maybe, because it is a committee, it has to have, that's sort of the need, it has to have minutes taken? And
Yeah.
so then does it have to be called a committee? Can it be called something else to avoid the minute taking?
Well, no, because, well, I would defer that to the legislative coordinator.
I think because you've put people on this, it becomes a committee by virtue of what it is. If it's just sort of the mayor and the CAO reviewing the agenda, I think that's not as formal a committee that needs minutes, so I think.
Like for example, Ms. Quinlan was in with the meeting on Friday because she's acting as the CAO. Thank you very much for that word. This week, and so we just really just went over, and then like that resulted in a letter being sent out regarding one of the items, so that we didn't have to explain the CAO's findings, you know, for the meeting, and we could be better prepared. That didn't really answer your question. So it,
Take minutes of the minutes. I mean,
the minutes of deciding what's on a committee what's on the
exactly.
agenda.
I mean, it's just to approve the agenda. What are those minutes going to tell you?
So
You know,
I-
we moved B to C and D to 3, and, you know, like, I go like, I just don't understand the need for doing that.
So I'm not exactly 100% sure on the purpose of an agenda committee, aside from that committee could decide what things go on and off the agenda. So then there would be no agenda as like what we see and going over it. It would be creating it, unless I'm completely off base of why we're doing this.
And I don't know if I'm, through the mayor, if I'm hearing this correctly. I don't think we can create the agenda on Thursday before it's going out, Thursday afternoon or Friday. I think it's still gonna be the process where you're reviewing the agenda. I know we plan meetings quite a ways in advance because there's things we know that are coming up. So there is planning, and there could be discussions about that with an agenda committee that, you know, upcoming items. But to actually set the agenda like the day before it goes out doesn't give anybody time to prepare the report. So, yeah, that would create a difficulty. I think, just a suggestion, if you need the CAO here to actually comment on this, because he's very involved in the process, you could defer or table this item till next meeting if you wanted to, unless you're happy with the way it is and want to proceed with the true readings, or you can defer it for further discussion.
Okay, I just want to say this, thank you very much for that advice, because I think that's maybe where we're going. This whole change of our process came out of advice from George Cuff when we did, you know, that workshop. And so I'm wondering if we maybe want to touch base with him to get some definition of why we would have an agenda review committee and what the framework would look like of why that's an improvement to council. And also talk to Mr. Kraus to see if we even need to, like, where we're going with this. Counselor Shippold.
Counselor Auld had that exact comment 3 meetings ago. Do we need it? And so we're right back to that. So maybe it would make sense that we just touch base with Mr. Cuff, and at the same time wait for Mr. Kraus to come back and then address this stuff at that point. So I would think that maybe tabling it till then would be a good idea.
I'm gonna go to Counselor Boniface.
I agree with everything that was just said. I was also gonna add, like, to have a agenda review committee. I understand the process of why we got to this. But the more you get to think about it, the more you have to, for myself personally, I have to go, is it really something that's necessary? It's been working, the wheel works, don't make it different. Also, it's gonna be really hard for me to show up for a review committee, I'm gonna be really honest and say that. So, you know, you're probably never gonna have me at one of these things. Plus, if one more of us are coming in, it just adds that much money to the bill. I think we need to look at that too.
Yeah. So right now, without this, it would be a period of time. I think we table it, get more information before we move forward on this item. Would you like to make a motion?
I also make that motion that we table this discussion on the council procedural bylaw to the next council meeting. And at the same time, ask for clarification from Mr. Cuff as to the process and what the benefits would be of doing it that versus what we're doing now.
Thank you very much. Do I have any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So moving forward in the agenda, we're at 6.2. The RFD for 2024, the Alberta Japan Twinning Municipalities Association. I practiced that one since Friday. Conference Planning Task Force. And I'll turn that to the legislative, yes, to Tracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. So as everybody knows, we are hosting the 2024 AG TMA conference next year, and a lot of planning is involved. So a task force is a suggestion from the executive of, just let me get my notes here straight.
The
So-
Rocky,
The Kamakawa, thank you, Friendship executive as well, to put this together. So, you know what, I'll start from the beginning. So council's committed to hosting the 2024 AGTMA Annual Conference and AGM. There's a lot of work involved in planning and hosting this conference. So it is being recommended by the executive of the AGTMA as well to appoint a chairperson to this committee. So this chairperson is gonna act as a liaison and be part of the actual executive for the next year until the conference is done, and then they'll choose another one for the next year. And basically, they're gonna be reporting on the planning process as well as attending all the executive meetings. So the executive meetings are done virtually, and the AGM to be in attendance for this year, which is in Jasper, May 12th and 13th. So the recommendation was to have staff members and council members on this committee, working together. And so that's what we have here is suggestions to do that.
so I like the terms of reference. I read through that on the weekend. And if everybody is noticed that on the terms of reference, it'd be the mayor, 2 councillors, and 2 members of the Kamakawa Society. And then that committee would appoint a chairman at their meeting. There would be from the town administration, the legislative coordinator, communications coordinator, and economic development officer. So it's pretty straightforward. Meetings will be scheduled as needed and held in town council chambers. So I highlighted that because if we're hoping to have it during business hours, that works fine, but it, you know, some of the members of the Rocky Mountain House, Kamakawa Society might not be able to make it during those times, because I believe their meetings now are like Tuesday at 7. And so I'm just wondering if that needs to be part of our terms of reference, or if that was just to make budgetary for the 3 town employees to make it work.
Correct, Mayor. We are trying to be fiduciary responsible too.
Right.
And it's just easier for us sometimes when they're held during the day.
Yeah.
But we have council meetings in the evenings as well, so if that's part of it. I don't expect there are gonna be a lot of meetings, like, you know, there could be 3 or 4 during the year, there could be a couple more. So yeah, no, it was just kind of thinking along that line, you are correct. But it again is as needed, and obviously we want, cause town staff are gonna make it work no matter what. So it'll be based more on like the mayor, the council, and of course the Kamakawa people, what they can make, because that's
Yeah.
the important part of who's gonna be making the decisions for this actual task force.
So with that being said, I just wanted to say, we don't necessarily have to hold it in town council chambers. It could be held like wherever is appropriate, you know.
Correct, but here we don't get charged, so it kinda works too,
Yes.
right?
Right, I'm just, like, their last,
Yeah, and like, our communication coordinator said, it could be done virtually as well,
okay,
if that is,
okay. I just wanted to clarify that, because I know that their meetings are having now, and when I talked to one of the members at the Consul General
oh, yes.
thing on Friday night, it's a lot of work to put it
Yes.
together, you know, so, there might be more meetings than what we're anticipating, so that's all. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the terms of reference for this committee? No? Would someone like to make a motion? Counselor Shippled.
Well, first we need to find a couple of counselors to sit on the board. Being that I have no board, so I most certainly put my name forward, just so I can do that. And then we need one other counselor to put their name forward, and then we can make the motion at that point.
Okay. So you're going with the alternative? So Counselor Shippled, is anybody else, Counselor Hutchinson, did you have a comment?
Yeah, if nobody else is interested, I can certainly sit on that task force.
Okay. Is there anyone else interested in being on the Japan twin? Okay, well, that seems like that worked out easily. So Counselor Shippled and Counselor Hutchinson. Counselor Shippled, did you want to go ahead with that motion now?
Yes, I'll make that motion. The resolved, sorry. Establish the 2024 Conference Planning Task Force and appoint Mayor Beach, myself, and Councillor Hutchinson, plus 2 members of the Kamakawa Friendship Society, the Legislative Coordinator, and a Communications Coordinator, and the Economic Development Officer to the task force.
Excellent. Any comments on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And so this will go back to the, just to follow up on this then, do we have to make a motion to write a letter to the Kamakawa Society instructing that this has been created and asking for their representatives?
Mayor, I can respond to Roy and let him know that we have formed a task force. And then at the first meeting that's planned to appoint a chairperson, because that's what he's mostly concerned about, is having that chairperson assigned.
Okay, perfect, thank you very much. So if there's no further items with 6.2, we'll move on to 6.3, AM resolution for 2023 Fall Convention regarding hospice funding. Ms. Quinlan, are you going to talk about that, or did you want me to?
If you would like to speak to it, I'd
Okay,
be
all right. Okay, so I believe this is come out of the presentation from the Compassionate Care Hospice Society, looking for funding from the provincial government. And so at Alberta municipalities, we have the ability to make motions, and we just have to write up our paperwork in due process a couple months ahead of time and find a seconder. So administration has gone through and done all the work to say that this would be a suitable resolution to present at Alberta municipalities. And we are to kind of go over this and then look for a seconder for our motion to present at Alberta municipalities, which would be in the end of September. And so that we'd all agree that we're going to move forward with that work. Does anybody have any questions on the Alberta, like the Alberta municipalities, worth the whereas or the who for? I know that when I talked to Steve Taylor, that we were going to be going to do this, he had some recommendations of who to talk to for seconders, and I'll help work through that, because I can get a hold of mayors and present the same thing. So this isn't our actual resolution, this is just the reasons why we could present a resolution, and then we would have to work with our seconders at the rate process. We would work with our seconder to make the resolution.
Mayor, no, this would be the resolution, and then we'd send it to another town council and try to get a seconder. Or actually, we could send it to a few different, town councils to make sure we have a seconder.
Okay.
Preferably. There's no reason that we could only have one seconder on it, we could have 2 or 3, really. So no, this is the resolution that we, legislative staff have put together to present.
Okay, so, the reason I ask this question is because we have, Len, is it a minute to present when we go to Alberta municipalities?
When a resolution is presented, you have 2 minutes to present that resolution. And then there can be people speaking opposing it and people speaking for it after that fact.
And so, like, there's 2 pages of literature here. I'm just wondering if this would be like the letter that goes with the resolution, and we need to thin down the resolution to something that can be spit out in 2 minutes in front of 500 people standing in front of a microphone in the middle of a room. Councillor Phillips.
Yes, when it's being presented at Alberta municipalities, there can be a Coles Note version of this
Okay.
that can be presented for the 2-minute conversation.
Your worship, I was just gonna say, we'd make sure that you have speaking notes that
Okay.
get that.
Councillor Boniface.
I think this is fine to present this, but I'm going to say that it's been my experience in the last year that talking to these people truly is a waste of time. Because they're downloading stuff onto municipalities across Alberta constantly. And at some point, they're all very congenial, they all smile and want to shake your hand and are very nice people, but they only have so much money too. And I think it kind of, at the end of the day, it's going to end up falling to us. One of the comments that's been made in here several times in dealing with this is that we're not really in the healthcare business. And talking with my wife, she reminded me, actually, we are. We are in the healthcare business. We won hockey rinks and Bell Diamonds and parks and everything, and that is all for the mental health and physical health of our community members. This is as well. The county has stepped up to pay their half of it. I keep saying, I don't know where we get the money, but there has to be somewhere or something that we can do to provide this, because I really do feel this is something important. And one day, all of you will too.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Boniface. Something else that came up would be, once we get maybe talking about the resolution, we get some feedback, maybe this is something that we could engage in at the conference with other municipalities that are doing it. Innisfil doesn't have one because Red Deer does it. You know, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to all the other ones, but this could be something that maybe, you know, by presenting this, we come up with solutions about how other municipalities are dealing with it. Plus, it doesn't also hurt to get awareness and say that we've tried everything. So I think we should keep on trying to make our government accountable, you know, higher up on the ladder, and move forward with this, if that's sounds sufficient. I'm sure it seems frustrating. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are frustrated with how this works, but I think this is a good step in the right direction. Even if we just come back with a bunch of feedback of, well, I don't think it needs, like, you know, when we present the resolution, there'll be a lot of people that will reach out after that's presented at Alberta municipalities. There's usually a lineup at your table with cards handed out about how to make it work in your community, and maybe that's what we need to do next. So, if that sounds fair, and nobody else has any concerns, Councillor Hutchinson.
I believe we discussed this at the last ICC meeting on doing joint motions with the county. And so is this the same as what the county is putting together? Any insight on that, or is that a Mr. Cross question when he gets back?
So, Mayor to Councillor Hutchinson, so this was a resolution made before the ICC meeting, and it was scheduled to come to this meeting, so that's why you are being presented this now. So having said that, we can work with Clearwater County on that, but they can't sign off as a seconder in ours and vice versa. So I think they're fighting from their end of things, which would be the other association, which is rural, and we're on with Alberta AB Munis, I think is what they're calling it now. So it can be the same resolution for both, if that's, but Clearwater County obviously will do up their own resolution, and well, obviously council wants to support that, but we can't support them as a seconder, so yes and no, I guess, is the answer to that.
Yeah.
So this is being brought back because it was a resolution, I believe, from Councillor Phillips was made prior to that meeting.
And I have spoken to some of the county councillors about this, and I'll bring it up to Daryl as soon as we pass this. Then I can give Daryl the same piece, the Reeve, the same information. I did get 3 rural municipalities to present to him as well, so that when he goes to find a seconder, there's Wheatland County and 2 others that have participated in hospice. So does that satisfy? Okay, so I guess I'm looking for a motion that we move forward with this resolution for Alberta municipalities. Councillor Phillips.
I will make the motion that we move forward with the resolution for hospice funding to the AB Munis Fall Convention.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor. And that's carried. That was very fast. Very good. Okay, so moving forward in the agenda, we have new business, 7.1. So 3 resolutions from Councillor Councillor Phillips. And I believe because we've dealt with the hospice one, there's actually just one resolution you want to discuss.
Yes, that's correct. So we just dealt with the hospice one, the cannabis excise tax. We are going to, I'm suggesting that we not move forward with that one, but I am suggesting that we move forward with the addressing rural homelessness in our communities and putting forth a resolution to AB Munis in the fall for that.
I think that sounds great. Did we have any discussion on that resolution? Because I have notes here that it might be a social needs issue. Like, when you first talked about it, was like supplying like maybe a social worker and some social things, or was it just specifically focused on homelessness?
So this is for advocating to the province to allocate funding, not just to the big municipalities of Edmonton, Calgary, Red Deers, but to advocate for funding to come to the smaller rural municipalities. We get left out in the conversation of homelessness, hospice society. We get left out of the funding model for that. So this is to advocate the province to look at allocating or coming up with some kind of funding model for smaller rural municipalities.
And so could I suggest that we add in there homelessness and supports in rural communities? Because some of the homeless issues, if we don't have the support.
Are you suggesting homelessness and perhaps mental health services as well? Or?
I was gonna say social needs, like addressing some of the social needs that, some of the homelessness may be able to be resolved with some social supports. Like we talked about, we need perhaps a social worker, and we can't put funding for that. It needs to come from the province. That was like what I remember, and just I want to add it. Or do you think that that's not necessary?
The resolution could say homelessness and associated social needs for homelessness. That could address it that way.
Thank you very much. I know, talking with the women's shelter, some of the support systems to keep people from becoming homeless or maintaining that, they're not available in rural. So it's not just like a homeless shelter. It could be just, we need a liaison or a whatever it's determined. And I know, yeah, so perfect. Any other comments or discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to vote. All in favor of that resolution? And that's carried. Yep. Yes, Councillor Phillips, did you want to read that out again?
Yes, I'd be happy to read that out. Make a motion that council instruct administration to draft an Alberta municipalities resolution for council's review regarding provincial support to address homelessness and associated social needs in rural communities.
Thank you very much. So I will call that to vote. Was carried. You're happy with that? Thank you very much. Moving forward in the agenda. Then we have an RFD for borrowing bylaw renewal for clean energy improvement program. So this, in a nutshell, is our bank line of credit that we just review periodically. Is that correct?
That's correct. Both this bylaw and the one coming right after it, we have lines of credit for two programs that we operate within the town. This one is for the SEEP program, and it's just something the ATB needs every year, is we need to renew this bylaw. So really all I do is I change the line that says this bylaw is repealed to the last year's bylaw, and we give it a new bylaw name, and they just need it done every year.
Councillor Schipholt.
So I don't know what this program is for sure,
Okay.
because I'm new. And I'm assuming what it is, it's something that the public can apply to the town of Rocky Mount for to get. So a couple of questions, if that's the case, and what is the pickup rate? And when is the date that it would be done with, that we don't have to do this? Or is it an ongoing program forever, or was there a sunset date put on that program
Okay.
when it was put into place?
So the SEEP program is the energy efficiency program. Right now, we're running the residential component, and we decided not to run the commercial component. We're doing a maximum of 300,000 per year. Last year was our first year, and we kind of estimated it to be 10 applicants at 30,000 a year. This line of credit is to fund the portion that the town funds. Right now, we get a grant for 69% at 0% interest through FCM, and then the balance is financed through internal financing of the municipality. When we created this program, we had numerous discussions with different places as well as our bank, and we decided that the best, most flexible option for right now was to run a line of credit, because you've got people coming in and out all during the year, payments being processed, and just, you need a lot of flexibility. So we were only gonna run a line of credit until the program was done in 4 years, and then look at rolling it over into some other long-term vehicle. The issue being that the program, the term of each loan for each individual is up to the life of the asset, so it could potentially be for 20 years. And banks do not typically offer financing for 20 years for like a loan. So this is our temporary measure, and then once the program is done, we would roll it into long-term financing. Does that answer your question?
Can I give you the sales pitch on it? It is where a residential citizen of Rocky Mountain House that would like to do a clean energy improvement, like change their windows or update something on their home. And so they don't want to put a second mortgage on, and we're providing a financing stream so that they can do upgrades to their home. And because we're getting the money at 0% from FCM, which is a federal program, then it doesn't cost anything but the little portion that we would and they would pay those interest rates. So it's like someone who maybe couldn't find another avenue of getting a loan to do some needed renovations on their home, replace and update a hot water tank or those energy things, then we're providing a line of credit, and we're tying that asset to their taxes. That's how we're guaranteeing it. So,
It actually is a provincial initiative, and then it became federal as well. So we're working with both the province and the federal government. They actually changed the MGA to accommodate this. And they changed it so that because municipalities that participate, we do have to finance a portion of it, that, like, the individuals are paying an interest rate on it, but they changed it so that that doesn't count into our debt servicing.
So the pickup rate, you said the program was built around the possibility of having 10 people apply?
Well,
And how many
10
did?
at 30,000, so 300,000 a year is the maximum.
And what was that pickup rate?
I would have to look it up unless,
If I may, Mayor, I was involved with the initial committee here administratively to get this program running. Rocky Mountain House was in fact the first municipality in Alberta to launch, and we maxed out the projects we accepted within, I want to say, 48 hours of opening the pre-qualifications in November of 2021. How many of those went through to the end last year? I haven't been, once the program was up and running, my role was kind of done in the project, but I do know we were at full capacity in the first year of the program. I don't know how many active projects are happening right now. Calgary, you may have heard in the news, just launched last week, and they had to close their portal within 24 hours because they were oversubscribed right away.
So sounds like full 100% take up. Okay, so any other questions? Councillor Hutchinson.
Just to Councillor Chappelle, we also discussed the commercial application, but Edmonton was the first municipality to do their commercial, and we discussed waiting until maybe they get that part figured out, because there was a lot of background stuff that our staff did before any other municipality. So that one we may look at in the future, see how Edmonton goes, learn from their mistakes, not ours.
Thank you very much. Would someone like to make a motion so we can? Councillor Phillips?
I'd like to make a motion that council give first reading to the line of credit borrowing bylaw 2023/04.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion about that motion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead with a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. And I think because this is just a regular banking thing, we can move forward with the second and third readings. So we'll need a second reading and then Councillor Ald.
I'll make the motion that council gives second reading to the line of credit borrowing bylaw 2023/04.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor of that? And that's carried. So we need, I'll make that motion. Be it resolved that council give unanimous consent to proceed with the third reading. Any discussion over that motion? All in favor of that? And that's carried. And we'll need a final resolution. Councillor Caprero? No, Councillor Hutchinson.
Be it resolved that council give third reading to the line of credit borrowing bylaw 2023/04.
Thank you very much. No further discussion on that. Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor, and that's carried. So now we move to 7.3, and did you want to give us background on this, or does someone, would you like to place a motion on that?
Is there any questions? It's basically, again, same thing, line of credit that's funding a portion of a development agreement for 54th Street. It's virtually no cost because the interest and principal will be paid, and it will be paid out no later than May 1st, 2024. And again, it's the same thing. It's really a bank housekeeping item where we just have to renew it every year.
So I don't see any questions. Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Caprero.
I will make the motion that council give first reading to the 54th Street Construction Project Line of Credit Borrowing Bylaw 2023/05.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Would someone like to make the second motion? Councillor Hutchinson.
Be it resolved that council give second reading to the 54th Street Construction Project Line of Credit Borrowing Bylaw 2023/05.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that? Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
No, I put my hand up.
Oh.
To vote.
Sorry. I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And sorry to make you do it twice. I just make sure I didn't want to miss a question. And that's carried. So because this is a normal housekeeping, I think we can move forward with the next motion. Would somebody like to make that? Councillor Phillips?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that council give unanimous consent to proceed to third reading of the borrowing bylaw 2023/05.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that motion? And like I said, it's just a banking, it's not affecting the community at large, so I think we can proceed. So no other comments. I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So I'm looking for the last and final motion for this item. Councillor Ald.
I'll make the motion that council gives third and final reading to the 54th Street Construction Project Line of Credit Borrowing Bylaw 2023/05.
Thank you very much. And for the last time, any questions or discussion on that item? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So, correspondence for action, 8.1, the FCM, Councillor Ald and Councillor Boniface are now no longer able to attend FCM, and we're looking if somebody else would like to attend. I believe that Councillor Hutchinson is attending for Councillor Ald, but now Councillor Boniface is unable to attend. Is there someone else who would like to go?
Yeah, I can attend this conference in May.
Thank you very much. And so, do we need any further discussion on this item? Seeing none. So we'll, as soon as we're done scrolling it, we'll need a resolution for, did you have a comment or?
No, I was gonna make a motion.
Okay, so Counselor Hutchinson, would you like to make the motion?
Be it resolved that council approve Councillor Phillips to attend the FCM conference in Toronto, May 25th to 28th, 2023.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Okay, so 8.2 of the agenda, correspondence from Correspondence from Wild Rose School Division regarding the utilization formula advocacy. So this came up when we had a meeting with Wild Rose School Division, and they've sent us copies of their letter that they sent, and that we would work with Clearwater County to say that these don't fit for the rural landscape in a nutshell. Does anybody want to discuss further about anything in the letter or make a motion? Counselor Shippold.
I also make the motion that we proceed with the letter that's been put into the package to forward to the Minister of Education, that will be signed by both
Clearwater County.
Clearwater County and the town. That will work, that motion. That it resolve the council collaborate with Clearwater County to send a letter of support to Wild Rose School Division's request to review the formula used to determine their operations and maintenance grant.
Perfect. Any discussion about that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving to 8.3, the 2023 Annual Community Planning Association of Alberta, CPAA Conference. Did somebody want to give us a little information or background on that? Is that something we normally have council attend? Councilor Phillips or Councilor Ald, have we ever attended that in the past?
I can't say for sure, but I don't believe we've ever attended this in the past.
Okay. Is anyone interested in attending this conference? Would someone like to make a motion to accept for information this 8.3? Councillor Boniface.
I'll make the motion that we accept 8.3 for information purposes.
And any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. 8.4, invitation for community prayer breakfast from Rocky Ministerial Association. So we got a letter from Lisa Block. Thank you. Inviting council and providing 2 free tickets to Wednesday, March 8th, 2023 from 7 a.m. till 8:30 a.m. It's just called a community prayer breakfast. They don't require any speeches, and it's just sort of like a community prayer breakfast. So I attended the one in Sylvan Lake a few months ago. It's well attended by members of the community, and it's just nice to support. So I'm available to attend that, and there's, if someone else would like to go. Councillor Phillips?
Yeah, I would like to go to this event as well,
Okay.
if council approves that.
That sounds great. Councillor Shippold?
I would like to attend as well.
Okay. Anyone else like to attend that morning? Okay, so could we reach out to Lisa and see if we could get a 3rd ticket? And then if they could just keep them at the door for us, I think that would be sufficient, right?
Whatever the process.
Yeah, well, I don't want, then we have to come here and get the tickets to go at 7 a.m. So would somebody like to make the motion? Oh, it shouldn't be us. Counselor Boniface.
I will make the motion that the mayor, Counselor Phillips, and Counselor Shipple attend the prayer breakfast.
Is the motion is not quite to your words, but are you in agreement with that motion?
I like that one much better.
Tracy, did you want him to read out what's on the screen? Thank you.
Be it resolved that council accept the invitation for the community prayer breakfast from the Rocky Ministerial Association and have Mayor Beach, Counselor Phillips, and Counselor Shipple to attend on behalf of town council.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that? And that's carried. Betty, if administration doesn't get another ticket, I don't mind paying for my own personal ticket to attend. I just need
We'll
to know.
contact them and make arrangements. I'm sure we can manage that.
Okay, thank you very much. So, moving forward in the agenda, membership invitation from, sorry, I'm just making sure I'm on the right line. Membership invitation from Parkland Airship Management Zone. So this is something that Mr. Kraus explained that we get every year, and we've never participated in it. Well, if we have, we no longer participate in it because it's, yeah, do you want to, thank you.
Well, I was just gonna say that, they send a letter inviting us and an invoice every year. And I'm not sure for how long, but I don't know that we've ever participated, so it's up to council. If they would like to join, then we will need a motion, otherwise we'll just accept it for information.
Counselor Shippold.
I'll so make that motion that we accept this as information.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? Actually, before we do that, is he, you have enough of what he said? Okay, thank you. And that was carried. We're going so fast, I just want to make sure that the legislative coordinator is happy with, we're doing the right steps. Counselor Shipple, did you have something else?
Trying to figure out the equation, how they got their price tag is another story in itself, because I have no idea. When they start talking about non-industrial emissions and stuff at 14%, but anyway, at this point, information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so lastly for new business, 8.6, a small community grant request from Foothills Society. Betty, did you want me to present, or did you want to talk about this item? I can talk about it. So Darcy Goodrunning is hoping to host a round dance on Friday, March 17th at the community center. And they're asking for $500 to support this, and then it'll go right back into the community center because they'll be renting that. And he's listed out, positive cultural event for First Nations people, but it's also open to the entire community. And I will send a link around. I've posted on my mayor page because I've talked to Darcy about this. He's already booked it before we even discussed giving him the grant. And there's a really good website with the U of A about what is a round dance and what to do to attend and what to wear and how it works, and just sort of give you the heads up because it's not just for First Nations. They actually encourage everyone to attend. So Darcy's next thing is Indigenous culture event for people of Rocky Mountain House community to learn and experience First Nation culture and bring reconciliation. And so they do have a funding model. They're going to put on a lunch that they will have at the beginning of the event. And then they pay drummers to come to play music, and then they offer prayers and things like that. So that's, in a nutshell, what they're looking for. And it does fit in with our, we did this last year, right? It does fit in our scope of the grant request. I think I explained that semi-good. Counselor Phillips.
I mean, this is exactly what our granting policy and is for community events like this. And it's fun to see, you know, a round dance and display the Aboriginal culture in our community, but it's also nice to have everybody else attend that so they can get that immersion into the culture. So I'm in fully support of this for sure.
Okay. Did you want to make a motion at this time?
Yes, if there's no further discussion, I'd make a motion that we approve the grant request for $500 for the Foothills Society for the round dance.
Okay.
Mayor, Mr. Goodrunning also dropped by last Thursday and wanted to formally invite you to attend the round dance as well. He is gonna be sending paperwork or an email to state that as well, but I just wanted you to be notified of that.
Okay, thank you very much. So did you want us to have a resolution for attendance on that?
Not at this time, I don't think it's needed, because it's not until March.
17th, okay.
And I believe it's here, correct?
Yeah, it's at the Rocky. Well, why don't we just do that? We'll do this resolution first, and then we can discuss attendance. And then we don't have to do it in a future meeting, because we've all just talked about it. So the motion up there, I'm gonna call that to a vote if there's no further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of Councillor Phillips' motion? And that's carried. So, do you want us to wait for his formal invitation, or did you,
Mayor, it's totally up to council. If they wanna make a resolution today, that's fine.
okay. So, I'll just wait till Laura's got it up there. Yep, that starts at 5 p.m. And so, with that being said, you don't have to go at 5 p.m. if you don't want to go to the dinner. It's open so that you can pop in whenever your schedule fits. They usually dance until at least midnight. So if any council members wanted to just stop in for half an hour between 5 o'clock and midnight, sometimes it'll go over. It just depends on what Darcy's got for the hall booked for. Some round dances, depending on how many drum groups come and there's different reasons for it taking longer. And hopefully I'm not describing that properly, but they do have a feast first, which is nice to participate in. But for example, if you have work commitments or things like that, you are able to just pop in and attend. So, would anybody like to make that resolution? Councillor Boniface?
Being resolved that council members were able to attend the Foothills Round Dance on March 17th, 2023, we do so.
Thank you very much. Any discussion about that resolution? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so correspondence for information. Is there anything in the correspondence for information that anybody would like to bring for discussion today? Seeing none, would anyone like to make a motion? Councillor Phillips.
I'll make a motion that we accept items 9.1 through 9.9 as information.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on those items? I did want to point out, did everybody see 9.9, just before we go? I'm sorry. The 70th anniversary of the Pembina Cardium Field in Drayton Valley. I just think that's quite an achievement for, Alberta. That's, the heartland of our economy, and so, just in case anybody missed that, is there anyone able to attend that or interested? Okay, so moving forward, I'll call that resolution to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Ms. Quinlan, we're at number 10, the action list. So this is Mr. Kraus's action list, and I think we could just,
I think I'll just ask if there's any questions.
is there any questions on the action list today? Counselor Boniface.
Just one actually, and if it's not the right place, please stop me. Our very first one is the delegation from the Rocky Pedal Bike Park. And we are going to be getting a visit from the museum and in regards to this item. I would happen to be there for work today, and they approached me, and I asked them to please bring a delegation to council with their concerns, and so that will be happening in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Do we have any other administrative inquiries today? Do we have any notices of, sorry, did I miss one? Sorry, yes, thank you very much. I'd like a motion to accept the action list for information. Counselor Hutchinson.
Be it resolved, the council accept the February 21st, 2023 action list as information.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Do we have any notice of motion? Seeing none. I'm sorry. Do we have any administrative inquiries? Seeing none. We don't have any notices of motion. So I will break for a 10-minute recess before we enter into closed session. Thank you very much.
we're just attending.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Town of Rocky Mountain House meeting, and I am looking for a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Caprero.
I will make that motion.
Thank you very much. No further discussion is seen, so I'll call that motion to a vote. All in favor of going into closed session, and that's carried. So we will Dave, and I'll give it to you in a second. Thank you very much. So we've just left closed session, and we have one motion to make this evening. I'm looking for a motion. Counselor Alt.
I'll make the motion. Council recognize 5 citizens for the Mayor's Recognition Award and 1 citizen for the Martha Costa Environmental Stewardship Award at the annual Rocky Mountain House Chamber of Commerce Business Awards on March 10th, 2023.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Seeing as we have no other business this afternoon, I will call this meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.